All right, cool. Here we are, Sunday evening, September 10th of 2023. This is episode number 15 of the Hybrid Athlete Podcast. I'm here to bring some news about some of the new programs that I've been making, some of the progresses I've made individually, specifically geared towards my heavy weight training phase, which is essentially a bodybuilding phase built towards base strength, putting on muscle, putting on mass, lean mass, so a lean bulk related to diet. This video is not going to be about diet specifically, but it's geared towards higher calories, calorie surplus day to day. Nothing extreme, but definitely putting on a couple pounds every week, a pound and a half at least. My body weight has gone up to 188, 189. So I am right on track to get to 195 plus in a month or so, which shouldn't be too much of a challenge as long as I keep eating the way I'm eating and cutting back on cardio. Before I get into kind of the weight training methodologies and philosophies that I want to bring up, I will point out that I'm doing significantly less cardio, and I notice a significant difference. There's studies that show that about 90 minutes of cardio a week is the most you want to do. 15 to 20 minutes per session is typically ideal. Anything more than that is going to kind of dig into muscle growth and optimal protein synthesis, cross sectional muscle fiber development, and anything that's really a result or a benefit from your resistance training, your weight training. So that's a good reference point. That's a good thing to consider when you're trying to go all in on weight training, which I am currently doing. I am totally confident that my ability to recover or drop a few pounds, get back into full endurance running shape is going to be fine. Last year, it was a relatively smooth transition from like February into April. It took me about 6 to 8 weeks to really get there. So that was kind of the adaptation phase or the overcompensation phase where body's a little bit sore. You're not used to that type of training. So you kind of get into a place where you feel like you need a deload. You feel like you need to take some off. I would argue that there's specific times to do it. There's specific times to deload. And that's what I wanted to bring up today with weight training, because I'm someone who trains relatively pretty hard. I mean, I keep a pretty high level of intensity for each one of my workouts. But the reason that I feel like I'm able to do so and still recover and train pretty hard 6 days a week is because I follow a cycle of listening to my body and listening to what I'm feeling. So, of course, without further ado, I'll bring in the whiteboard here. Make sure we follow the lighting here. So this is what I want to point out. There's periodization is a type of training philosophy where you pay attention to volume versus intensity, the discrete elements or the discrete parts of a training cycle. This could be long-term like a macro cycle. This could be short-term like an individual training session. The method in which you increase intensity or you maintain weight, or vice versa. If you maintain intensity or decrease or increase volume, that can play a role too. So pyramiding is a good example of this. Say you want to bench press, you start out with 135 pounds for 25 reps. Then you end with 225 pounds for 5 reps. That is a progressive pyramid. You can go in the reverse fashion where you start out with 225 pounds for 5 reps, and then you incrementally increase repetitions and decrease resistance or intensity. So that's a way of kind of following a linear path, either using weight and volume as the variables. But what I'm talking about with nonlinear is more instinctual training, paying attention to your body. So, for example, based off of my readiness, if I'm warmed up, if I've done my pre-workout cardio, 10 minutes maybe on a stationary bike, something along those lines, I just warm up, I get some blood moving, I do some dynamic stretching, I probably mimic the movements that I'm going to do for the lift. For example, if I have a bench press day, I'm going to do some shoulder swings, some arm swings, maybe grab a light 2.5, 5 pound plate, warm up the shoulders, get the blood moving, make sure that I'm nice and ready for the exercise, for the workout. And then I start into my workout, and I don't always follow a linear path of resistance training or a linear path of intensity. That is insinuating basically that what that means for me is that I go off of feel. If I start working out chest, I might move into a shoulder movement. I might move into arms. I do whatever I can to this approach is really to like get the best pump that you can to get the best hypertrophy. There's two different types of hypertrophy. There's contractile hypertrophy, which is myofibular. Myofibular hypertrophy comes from powerlifting set sizes like 1 rep to 5 reps, low reps, high intensity. You're really working like the tendons, the ligaments, those get strained. You're taxing the nervous system. Your nervous system is kind of in shock, for lack of a better term, and you really need to develop an adaptation to that. The first time you have maybe 300 or 400 pounds on your back to do a squat, a heavy squat, your nervous system has never felt that before. So it's kind of a intense feeling. And you can get kind of fried from that. There's even methods that heavy lifters, power lifters do called a walkout, where you take more weight than you can actually lift in 1 rep. You just walk it out. You walk the bar out and then you walk the bar back and you rack the weight. So there's ways to get your system prepared for those heavier, it's neural adaptation. So basically just your nervous system needs to be basically used to receiving that type of stress. What I'm talking about with the type of hypertrophy training that I'm doing specifically is more of a sarcoplasmic hypertrophy. That means that the origin of the muscle, the part of the muscle that does not move, like the belly of the muscle, is really what grows and gets the swelling. So it's non-contractile strength. That means that you can look big, but you can't lift that much. You may notice that some bodybuilders look really big, but they're only bench pressing maybe 225, 275 pounds a lot of the times. But they look bigger than some power lifter who is smaller, who can bench press 450 pounds. So basically the point I'm trying to make is that there's two different types of strength. I lean towards the strength that's not going to damage my joints. I'm not trying to bench press 400 pounds. Like I've said before, I'm not trying to squat 550 pounds. I'm trying to increase strength, but I want to have a base strength that's more in the rep range of 5, 6, 7 reps. The heaviest weight I can do at that rep range. I never really do sets of 3 unless it's like a heavy bench press. Like I might try to do like 260 for like sets of 2 or 3 or something on the bench. I might try to squat over 300 pounds for 3, 4 reps sometimes. But for the most part, I stick in the rep range of 5 to 8 reps if I really want to work heavier sets. But for the most part, I stick in that range, and I use non-linear training, which, as I just specified, non-linear training is essentially not following the linear path, which I spoke about with like the pyramid or like the incremental change. It might fluctuate through the whole workout. I might go high intensity for chest, lower intensity for an arm workout, high intensity for an incline dumbbell press, lower intensity for a cable fly, higher intensity for like almost cheat curls, like heavier bicep curls at the end of the workout. I go by feel and what maintains the highest intensity for me. And I also try to this allows me to do 2 things. If I switch muscle groups, it allows me to keep in high intensity for the entire workout. So my rest period between each set is 45 seconds to 60 seconds at the most. And I'm just moving through the whole workout. I do 20 to 24 set workouts in less than an hour and a half on each muscle group. And the split I do right now is currently just 1 body part per day, pretty much. And then I mix in like arms or isolated exercise, or they're called staggered sets, where like, if my calves need maybe some work, or maybe my shoulders, I might just do and I might just work in like a light shoulder exercise in a heavy back day, something like that. But for the most part, that's how it's structured. Now, when we get into block training is more of like a specificity term. So block training means that you are dedicated to one quality, one type of training method, one type of training intensity. And the reason that which would follow the nonlinear is because you want to settle in, you want to kind of build an adaptation and build a resistance, especially for me, when I'm switching between endurance and weightlifting. I want to push my body as hard as I can every day and treat it almost like football 2-a-days in the off season for guys that play football. Like I'm working out twice a day sometimes. I'm doing cardio, I'm doing everything. But I kind of find that sweet spot where every day I'm pushing myself as much as I can. I don't want to overtrain an individual muscle group. I don't want to get injured. I don't want to lose form. I don't want to have form failure on my lifts. I'm still working out very intense every day, but I'm not losing form. So I work out back twice a week, but the second back workout is different in exercise and in movements, and they're separated so that my first back day would be Monday, for example, this week that's coming up. My next back workout is not going to be until Thursday. So I have 3 days between each back workout, and I do 2 workouts of 14 to 18 sets. So I'm looking at 36 sets pretty much. I might just mix in a few more, just kind of just being, instinctual. But that's kind of the structure of it. So this block training refers to kind of the overall, like the set kind of goal, where I'm talking about like intensity, but rep ranges, types of training. My body's going to start to change in this phase here in the block training phase. So like I said, I'm not a power lifter. I don't try to, I don't care about how much I don't take 10 minutes and try to do one rep as heavy as I can. I keep this block training geared towards hypertrophy training. I keep it towards power, like strength and agility hypertrophy training, where I mix in HIIT cardio on a day where I lift weights. So that becomes constant. And I lean into which days I do specific HIIT training. At this point, I'm leaning into boxing 2 days a week. I do the assault bike at least 1 day a week. I might do sprints on the treadmill 1 day a week, something like that. So these 3 HIIT sessions are going to be mixed in, and they're going to become kind of a staple of my week. So this non-linear was kind of like the introductory phase, for lack of a better term. But this block training is what's going to lead me to need a deload week. So when I push myself in block training, week over week, we want to get incrementally better. And this is where somebody like Hunter Labrada, he's famous for saying it. He's one of the best bodybuilders right now that's out there. He's one of the best pros. He is really a proponent of progressive overload. This is where you can start using progressive overload, and that principle kicks in, where basically week over week, if you do 5 sets of 5 every week on the bench, I'm doing 5 sets of 5 for 205 when I first started to get back into weightlifting. Now I'm pushing it up to 225, 5 sets of 5. Eventually, if I can get to like 245, 250 for 5 sets of 5, that'd be a nice kind of peak training phase for me, where after I get to that point, I've pushed myself hard enough over the course of 4 to 6 weeks that I really need a deload, right? So this deload can last for generally, it might be a week at the most, but for me, it's going to be 3-4 days, where I just kind of, I still go to the gym, I still show up, I still go through my routine, but my joints are hurting. My muscles are just I'm feeling broken down. I'm feeling run down on the same schedule, because I've done the same workout scheme. I've done the same splits, but I've definitely taxed my nervous system. I've taxed my neural capacity and my muscular capacity I'm not taking steroids. So this is a good point to get to. This should be kind of a feeling of accomplishment for anybody who trains hard enough. This deload should be well-deserved, but when it does come and when it hits you, you go do this system in reverse. So you go back to block training. You do this system starting from here. So it's the same process. So you follow back through the process. You do a nonlinear training to kind of get into a set block system. And then once you hit that second block system, you see the law of diminishing returns kick in, where now you kind of got to go through the phase of work hard just to get a little bit better every week. But if you're on a relatively similar program where you do the same amount of high intensity interval training, I do 8 miles of running pretty much and about 20 miles on the bike every week. This is going to look different for you individually, depending on what program you're doing. If you're trying to go more in the powerlifting route, these block periodizations, these sessions are going to be more of like 3x3. You're going to top out on a deadlift. You're going to try to maybe build up to 1 week of testing, maybe where you try to max out on a bench, max out on a squat, something like that. For me, a max out is going to be like a set of 5, like a set of 3 to 5, as heavy as I can for some of these compound movements. But I wanted to present this because, in my opinion, this is a great model for training, where you go through like a cycle of nonlinear training, instinctually keep the intensity, settle into what you're trying to do, settle into your goals, your strength goals, hit a deload week, earn that deload week, plateau through. You're not going to really, push the food. You're just kind of going to sleep, rest, recover, hydrate, take 3 days, sweat, make sure you go do some cardio, something, stay active, still hit the weights. Nothing intense though. Maybe go to just cable movements. Maybe just go to like, a lot of isolated movements. You can still, do like some pre-exhaustion workout stuff like that, but use this time to gear up for the second round of block training and nonlinear flexible training, where you can kind of hit a new plateau. This is where you really gear up to peak to break through a plateau. You're going to hit the law of diminishing returns. You're going to hit a plateau when you start block training. And when you really start, the better shape you get into, the better fitness level you have. This is the type of method that's going to make a difference. Say, for example, you're used to just doing the assault bike once a week, and you're training legs once a week, and you're training back twice a week and chest twice a week. Once you do more HIIT and you still have the same rep and set scheme, document it all and just track your progress. 10 to 15% more of energy expenditure and basically just muscle requirements, work requirements, the workload for you every week. If that increases incrementally, especially through this method, you're going to see progress made. And no doubt at the end of a training session like this should take you maybe 3 to 4 or 5 months. So doing this correctly is really going to get you good results. And as long as you're not doing too much cardio, but you're still doing cardio and eating enough calories, good calories, clean calories, your weight's going to go up, your muscle mass is going to go up, and you're going to gain quite a bit of everything, quite a bit of the good stuff. You're going to gain strength, you're going to gain mass, you're going to gain energy even too. If you mix cardio with weightlifting, in my opinion, that really gives you a lot of energy, as long as you're not running too much. If, for me, and specifically the transition from endurance to weightlifting is always difficult, just because I'm trying to I'm in that awkward phase of go run 10 to 12. It's like a David Goggins phase, to be honest. It's like go run 10 to 15 miles and then bench press or squat as much as you can. There's like 2 or 3 weeks of hell with that. But once you get through that kind of phase of severe uncomfort, it's easy to tell yourself you want to deload. But in my opinion, the deload comes from the total work output that you're doing and really the joints and the structural fatigue that's on your body. We all, you might be really tired from leg workout, but you're going to hit a different body part the next day. That's a different type of mental strength and mental focus that you have to have. But in terms of kind of the structural, fatigue on your body, that's where deloads come into play. There's plenty of other professional sources that can really give you good information on when to elect to do the deload. But that's the information I wanted to present this week for kind of taking the hybrid athlete approach and going for like a strength phase or kind of an intense weight phase as we move into fall and winter. I'm sure a lot of, guys are kind of in the same mindset as I am. You want to build, you want to put on a mass in the off season or in the winter, then you want to cut back or lean out in the summertime. That's typically like a trend that goes. It's like one of those trends where they say every Monday is National Chest Day because everyone likes to bench press. They care about that the most. I've turned Monday into back day just because back's my weakest part. So I think if you're trying to make some progress, I think there's subtle things you can do, and I've made different episodes on these topics, but there's little things you can do internally to kind of maintain that intrinsic inspiration, that intrinsic motivation that needs to be flat, constant, and high throughout the entire year. So this is the part of the year where I'm digging into weightlifting. I'm posting shorts on kind of my getting bigger, kind of like self-documentation of, okay, make sure I'm headed in the right direction, reflecting on my diet, taking notes, journaling kind of what I've learned about diet, eating more frequently. Has that really boosted my metabolism in the past? What does my body fat look like as I'm putting on, I put on 11, 12 pounds almost in 2 months. What does that look like? Does it feel good on me? Do I feel like shit sometimes? Do I feel like I need to cut back on the food, or am I not eating enough food at times? Is carb cycling necessary? Next week, episode 16, I'll talk about that stuff. I've made a few discoveries, in my opinion, with supplementation, hydration, carb cycling, things along those lines. I've learned that I've become really good at water retention, meaning that I never feel dehydrated no matter how much I do. The first thing for me to always go or break down is really just my muscular system. So I'm exploring options with that. Obviously not steroids, but everything under the sun besides that. So that's kind of all I have for this week. Keep it under 20 minutes. I hope everyone out there has a great week. And until next time, we'll see you then. Take care. Bye-bye.